Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast.
Hello. Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast. I am George Armistead, and I am here with Molly Brown and also with Holly Merker. How are you guys doing today?
Hey, George. Great to be here. Doing great. How about you?
Yeah, me too. Happy to be back on the podcast.
Yes, Molly, you've been running around all over the place. Seeing lots of Columbia. We're going to talk about that shortly. Holly, what have you been up to?
I have been pretty busy this winter, busier than I expected. But I've been happy to be at my home base here in southeastern Pennsylvania a bit more than I have been throughout the rest of the year. And that's been pretty cool. So doing a lot of writing, doing a lot of work in preparation for the upcoming field season of tours and programming. And birding here and there and where I can every day, even if it's only in my own backyard, which is my favorite type of birding these days.
Nice. Excellent. And have you been seeing much of note in the backyard? Any particular highlights or regular cast of characters doing anything nutty?
Well, I've been lucky to have a ruby crowned kinglet visiting all winter long. That bird took a leave of absence during the Great Backyard Bird Count, which I was really bummed out about.
Oh,
but I
man.
was happy. Yeah, I
Faux
know.
pas, ruby crown.
Seriously, yeah. So I'll call her she comes to my suet feeder and snags a little treat here and there. And so that's been really fun. And then also, I just love eastern bluebirds, and I have quite a crew of those birds hanging out. And they just bring me so much joy. So that's been the highlights of my yard lately.
Nice. And Molly, you've been back, like a week now or something? Or even? Not even?
Not even. Like 4 days?
Okay.
It's really hard to keep track.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of starting my yard list fresh because let's see. So I know that we've talked on the podcast that I've been in Columbia for a while, and I did try to get on the last episode, and nothing was working, like microphone connection, laptop, none of it. So yeah. I said bye to you and Alvaro, and you chimed in.
We soldiered on, yeah.
Yeah, you did. I'm so happy to be talking to both of you. It's been a long time, so this is great to catch up, and I'm still settling in. But yeah, Jimmy and I flew back last week. Got delayed overnight in Miami. Had to get back 20 hours later than expected. Immediately got home, packed up all of our things, and moved into our cabin. So this is my first podcast from our new home.
Yes, and Holly and I were noticing your background is drastically different than what we have seen in the past. Yeah. It looks very cozy, very warm. A lot of warm light. Looks really, really nice.
It's really, really great. Yeah. Not the bright green walls of our last place that filled up the screen. Now we're in a cabin. And yeah, it's really awesome. I love it. As I told you both before I started, one issue is that in the time that we were gone and when we turned the heat on, we discovered that there's a whole nest of paper wasps that are in our ceiling. Man. So that's been fun the past couple days as everything warmed up, and they've been getting more active. I keep sealing corners in the beams up above and then finding another hole. So I vacuumed them all up right before we started recording, and now I'm just keeping an eye out. I haven't got stung at all.
Hoping for the best.
Yeah. Otherwise, the cabin's great. I came back, picked up my dog who was staying at my grandparents'. He's 9 years old. And the next morning after moving in here, he was acting super sick. Terrified me. I didn't know what was going on. So I then spent that whole day figuring out and getting to the vet clinic and getting all that checked. And he had an infection, but he's treated and everything's better. So that was a little bit of a damper in coming back. But he's acting normal now. You've probably already seen him in the background. He's hanging out and happy. And now settling in, getting things unpacked from the trip and from just moving and getting organized, and also really starting the yard list fresh. So I'm also seeing the first turkey vultures out the window since I've been back. So I'm going to have to do some e-birding while we're recording too. Anyway, lots going on. Very happy over here.
That's awesome.
It looks beautiful, Molly. And I also, while I'm watching you, I just feel like I should be smelling the smell of pine or something. It just looks like it smells good. Is that
it
true?
Does. It smells like pine and coffee. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's so great. I know I'm going to get used to it, but right now I can still smell everything, and it's great.
Got that new cabin smell. You know?
Mm-hmm. It really does.
Feel good smells too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's so warm. It's been a nice adjustment to come back to warm March weather, but that's nice too. I've got all the windows open and feels good. I imagine over that way too.
Yeah, I've been out actually in the garden a little bit. Haven't been doing much birding. I've been hiking around, and hearing some things here and there, but just, expected birds. But after some time away, nice to hear the pileatids, sounding off, and just I always love hearing white-breasted nuthatches and eastern towhees, and but I haven't really done any proper birding. I'm about to go do some. I think Kristen and I are going to spend some time with my folks, and I think we'll probably do some birding around the eastern shore of Maryland. So excited for that. I did want to relay one unusual experience that I'd had while walking in the woods here, and I'm curious if you guys have ever encountered something like this. Have you ever experienced a rage ritual? Have you ever heard of a rage ritual?
No. Do tell.
Yeah.
This was a lifer for me. And so I was hiking through the woods with our dog, and I noticed another dog kind of coming towards us on the trail that is a dog we know. And Sully, our dog, loves that dog, whose name I'm forgetting at the moment, but they're buddies. They see each other and they jump around and they sniff each other and they leap around and give each other a very good greeting. So that proceeded, but I was sort of like, where's the woman who's the owner of this dog? She wasn't really around. And initially I was like, what's happening? And then I started hearing some yelling, and I was like, oh man, I hope she's okay, and then I kind of round the corner of the trail and I'm continuing to hear this screaming and yelling. And I'm like, what is this? And I get there and I see her, and she's holding a stick, and she's smacking the stick, a big stick, really hard against the side of a tree, and screaming a little bit of profanity. And then she turns over and looks at me, and she bursts into laughter, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry you had to see this. I am undertaking a rage ritual, and it's a way of sort of ridding myself of negative thoughts and negative stuff happening in my life." And so she was like, "But I and I was like, that sounds like a pretty good idea. I get that. Go for it." It was a little alarming to come across somebody doing a rage ritual. So that was a lifer.
Yeah. Wow.
It was a new one. Yeah.
This is in your patch by your house, one of the
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It was new. It was different. But anyway, maybe other people know about rage rituals. Well, that was a new experience for me.
I can imagine the sense of alarm you must have of hearing somebody yelling in the forest there. That would make anybody kind of concerned. Take away some of the peace and your sense of security and calm you might be feeling from having a walk in the woods.
Yeah.
That would be my concern with a practice like that, is that if it's impacting other people's experience and also impacting their mindfulness.
Yeah. First, it went from concern to being funny, but during the time that before it was funny, it was a little I really hope that somebody is okay and that everybody's going to be okay, which was not a great feeling.
Yeah. Well, what are the chances that it's someone you knew? And like you said, seeing their dog first, that would make me very alarmed.
Yeah, it was a little the whole thing was a little concerning, amusing in retrospect, a little, but
the theory sounds great.
Yeah, interesting theory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to let it out like that. But yeah, I don't know how you find an appropriate time and space to do so.
Yeah.
Especially in an urban area.
Yeah, I mean, I think the leaf blowers around here are bad. If all my neighbors were engaging in rage rituals, I'm not sure which I would like better. But, yeah.
Yeah. Can't say I've encountered that. When you started talking about that, though, it reminded me. I kind of want to dive into this. I think it's a good bonus episode content at some point. But I want to talk about the reason that our flight was delayed from Medellin to Miami. Well, not the reason. I don't know what the reason was, but we sat on the runway for like 3 hours. Oof. And it was the craziest example of like mob mentality chaos that I've ever witnessed. So maybe I'll leave it at that for this, but it was just like the buildup of like people acting like inappropriate behavior was okay, and then like it getting worse and worse and worse, and like the pilot had to come back and threaten to physically restrain people, like crazy stuff for hours.
It sounds like a mess.
It was nuts. So that was a different type of rage.
Yeah,
ritual, I think.
Not ideal.
Maybe not as productive. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other bit of news I have to report here is that, as I think you guys both know, I have like sinus issues, and I get like stuffed up. I get like sinus infections at the time. While I was in India, we had a number of meals that featured hot chili peppers, and that were on the side. Like they weren't like mixed into the food, but if you wanted, they were there for you as like a little side thing. And I love those. And like one day my sinuses were killing me, and I ate some hot chilies, and it like totally cleared me out. And so now I bought some even hotter peppers that I have here. I got Kristen got me some habaneros. And as soon as the sinuses start to flare, I'll just like slowly eat a whole habanero pepper until I'm basically crying, but they're tears of joy. These are tears of joy and sweet relief. And so I'm calling it my habanero therapy. And it's actually, I don't know if I owe everything, because I'm doing other stuff as well to try to help with the sinuses, but it's been, I think it actually has helped a lot. So anyway, if anybody else suffers from like sinus issues, consider habanero therapy. Proceed cautiously, however.
Yeah.
That's funny you brought that up. First off, one person on the High Times tour was having sinus issues and requested some hot sauce, and then that kind of became a theme on our tour too, was to do that to kind of clear your sinuses. But Jimmy has horrible allergies, and he had to quit working and go to sleep last night as we were doing some work on the underpinning in the house because he was such a mess. So maybe I'll go to the grocery and get some peppers.
There you go.
Yeah, that's a great idea, actually.
Yeah, it's worth a shot.
Anything's worth a shot when you've got it that bad.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it can be pretty debilitating, really. Yeah, it's like not a lot of fun.
Especially during spring migration.
Yeah, exactly. Especially. Yeah.
The last thing you want is your ears clogged up.
Yep. For serious. So I don't know if you guys have seen, Flacco continues to make news despite his untimely passing. There's been some news, positive, that it sounds like there might be some regulations introduced to try to further limit window strikes. So that is interesting and would be a positive outcome, even if sort of a strange route to get there, that a non-native owl that has been frequenting the streets of New York would be the impetus for like greater regulation of, glass that's so reflective that it's really bad for birds. If that happens to help, then so be it. But I gather there was a necropsy done of Flacco, And I think, as we've discussed, like I thought the window strike thing seemed a little odd. Certainly could happen, of course, but just given that, this bird had been navigating this area successfully for a year, apparently without issue when it comes to windows, I thought it was odd that that was the way he would go, or it just seemed a little surprising, perhaps. But the necropsy appears to show that he didn't have any like head trauma. There wasn't any like injury, in the head area. It said apparently there was little to no trauma to Flaco's head, which is what you would have expected in a window strike. Instead, it appeared there was hemorrhaging under the sternum and the back of the body cavity around the liver, leading some to think that the trauma that Flaco did show was from his fall from a perch. And I guess a security camera appears to show that. But also possibly that what the real underlying cause of his death could have been was ingesting rats that had been ingesting rodenticide. So anyway, the plot thickens. But I guess, I don't know, what do you think, if any, would be the lessons learned here? Or do you have any thoughts, Holly, on what maybe the upshot of our time with Flaco will end up being?
Yeah, well, I see what you're saying about one of the benefits or the silver linings of this type of situation sometimes, which are really tragic situations and pulling at a lot of people's heartstrings, at least an awareness of what birds are confronted with on a daily level. And so whether that be plate glass, which we know has profound impact on many thousands and thousands of birds each year, from our right outside in our own windows to obviously large buildings, but also if we're shining a spotlight now on the effects of rodenticide and how that impacts not just birds, but other animals in our ecosystem, it's important to be aware. And I think that the greater awareness, because a lot of people just don't know, right? I mean, we as birders, we're attuned to wildlife conservation initiatives and we know about all this stuff, but not everybody does. And I think sometimes as birders, we take it for granted. So it's just educating people. And so while this is very sad and it just illustrates what a lot of birds go through in their lives and are pressured with. So I think that's one of the main takeaways I've come away with. And I'm hopeful that this event will cause some awareness and uncover some possibilities of how we can each make a difference in the lives of the birds around us, right? How can we make the world a better place for the birds in our own neighborhoods?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just, as you were talking, looking up stats that I had seen on animals or birds coming into rehabilitation centers. I was curious how poisoning compares to collisions. And from what I saw, collisions was higher. So just was thinking of that as you were talking. But yeah, it is ironic, as you said, that what is becoming a symbol in a lot of different ways is an escaped non-native bird, which I think just adds to the layers of intrigue anyway.
Yeah, and just thinking about what you said, Molly, about the statistics, could it be also, it's very obvious when a bird strikes a window, you're going to find the dead body right there, right at the site of impact. But for an animal that's been impacted by rodenticide or other chemicals, and this includes lead as well, they become disoriented, their behavior changes, and they may not die in a place that people are going to find them. Mm-hmm. So we have sort of a human bias, I think, perhaps maybe in looking at animal death. And I wonder about that, like if there's any sort of bias in being able to provide evidence of what an animal has passed from.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And even just all the effects of some levels of lead or rodenticide or other things that are present in birds that affects them, whether or not it is the actual cause of death. Because in this case, theoretically, the cause was impact from ground or building or something, right? But all made possible by that. Yeah, I have such a difficult time grasping like how well these things are known outside of the birding world. At least for me, it's such a tiny world of birding.
Yeah.
I did send George to you and Alvaro the SNL skit that references Flacco. That is a skit about Hooters.
I wanted to see that. Yeah, I haven't watched it yet.
Totally unrelated skit, but at the end there's a reference to going to a funeral for Flacco, but the whole crowd in the SNL room reacts. There's like gasps and laughter. So apparently it was a reference that everyone got. Yeah, that's about the extent of my barometer for how well this is known. But
it is cool that he's kind of he really has permeated a big swath of in pop, entering into pop culture.
Totally.
That's impressive.
It is. I know we've talked about this bird a lot on the podcast in the past year, but it is a bird that has a really big impact. So it's pretty cool to see that and just see the ways that people can become more concerned about nature and conservation.
Yeah, any bird that really ropes people into its story, hopefully, is a positive thing.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think that and owls, as you say, right, are really
they're
really
great ambassadors to birding, to nature. Who doesn't love seeing an owl? I mean, it's just spectacular.
Yeah,
it really is. And probably that bird was probably the first owl a lot of people who got to see Flacco had ever seen with their own two eyes out in the wild. And even if that bird was raised from captivity, was still in the wild, self-sustaining, right? And so really special for a lot of people and something to be embraced.
Yeah.
Sort of similarly on that topic, every time I'm in the Neotropics and on these tours, especially a lot of the intro tours go to different feeder stations, and this conversation always comes up. If there's, say, an ant pitta at a feeder station, and what does that mean for that individual, and what does that mean for ant pittas, and how does feeding birds both positively and negatively impact ecosystems and communities and all of that. I think there's a lot of good in birds that can bring a lot of joy that leads to awareness for people.
That's a good point, Molly. It makes me want to talk about two different topics, and I'm not sure which to go with first. I want to hear more about your experience in Colombia, and maybe we should do that first, and then we can talk more about birds and birds at feeders, and which is something that we were keen to chat with Holly about today. Sound good?
Totally.
Cool. Well, yeah. What was Colombia like? So first of all, where did you go? Because you hit some spots you'd not been to before. Mm-hmm. You also hit your old haunts there, kind of retraced your steps for the route we did with our gang from Lifeless trip last year through the Central Andes.
Yep.
And ended up in Cali. So maybe walk us through your itinerary of where you went and what some highlights were.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yes, the first chunk of February that I spent in Colombia was pretty much centered around our birding tour for Hillstar, which is the High Times tour. So this was a little bit shorter, but followed the same route that we did for the Lifeless tour last year. So we just did the Central Andes Coffee Triangle part, and it was great. I know we talked about the itinerary a lot in past episodes, but it's a really, really good tour to go to fun lodges and see really iconic birds. Like, I think it's the birds that you imagine when you think of Colombia birding, like mountain toucans and ant pittas and I don't know, 30-ish hummingbird species that, cover a lot of different elevations within that part of the Central Andes that are just really, really cool. And you kind of work your way up. All of it was really fun. Comparing it to last year. Oh, wait, one other thing I want to say that made this trip particularly fun. More than half of our group spoke Spanish and English. And for 2 women from Puerto Rico who were on this trip, Spanish was their first language. So it was me and Yesenia Tapasco guiding it. And it was super fun to make this a bit of a bilingual tour. We were kind of breezing back and forth through Spanish and English the whole time. And of course, working with a lot of different guides at each location and individuals too. So that was a lot different than I'd experienced on other tours, and super, super fun. We all had a good time with it. So that was just a unique dynamic on this tour.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. But comparing it to last year, we've also talked about effects of El Nino on the podcast a lot. So we saw a lot of that too. It was, I think on average, about 10 to 15 degrees hotter than last year everywhere we went. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I warned the group a lot to be prepared for really cold weather when we got up into Los Nevados looking for buffy helmet crusts and other things, because last year, I mean, it was cold. It wasn't even that bad of weather or anything compared to what it could be while we were there. But I told everyone, like, bring all the layers. It was, I mean, still the coldest part of our tour, but not nearly as cold. And it was kind of sunny and clear in a weird way, you know. So the feeder activity was a little bit down across the whole stretch of the tour. We ended up seeing more species than last year. But I bet that the total number of birds was less, just less density altogether. So yeah, it was just really cool to see how all of that compared. One thing, when we spent the day looking for gray-breasted mountain toucans last year, and typically they're at feeders and really easy to get and like incredible looks, but it ended up being an all-day quest for us to track some down. They didn't come to the feeders, and we ended up seeing them, but it was a lot more of an adventure than we expected. So that was I don't know, kind of exciting, but nerve-wracking.
It's funny because that you're describing the difference between our trip and some of the trips that I ran to Colombia in the summer as well. It was generally,
that's right. Yeah,
and it was the same El Nino effect, I'm assuming, which was that generally cloud forest was hotter, drier. Bird activity was down. It didn't seem to affect our species total much, but just overall numbers of birds were down. And I think it's just everything was hotter and drier, and stuff was keeping, quiet and keeping a low profile.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's how it seemed. It was still super fun tour. It's easy to impress with those species, like I said. So
yeah, it's an amazing collection of birds.
Yeah. Our group, let's see, for only one person, two, it was their first time to Colombia, but all of them had birded the Neotropics a good bit before too. It was a really, really fun, sharp group of birders. So we were just kind of kicking ass, finding birds the whole time, and that was pretty exciting too.
Nice. And then after that, you did some interesting stuff as well.
Yeah, we, after that, so last February when we did this tour, we included Columbia Bird Fair, and this time we kind of added it as an optional thing. So part of our group went to Columbia Bird Fair after, myself included, and did some birding around Cali, which is hitting some of the spots that are on the, what is it called? The
Western Andes, or the
I guess it's our Western Andes tour. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That we're running next year. So I hit up a few different spots that I hadn't been to in that area yet. And then Jimmy met me and came and we met up with our friend Giovanni too. And we took off on a lot of short little excursions after that, starting with San Cipriano, which is just one of the most unique places, maybe like the most unique singular birding experience that I've been on, just because of the logistics to get there and the history of the town.
Riding the brujitas, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
which is a pretty bizarre. Like it's tucked away as little towns go. That's pretty darn tucked away. It's basically along a river, and the only way to get there, right, is via these brujitas, which are sort of like motorcycle powered, like train track trolleys. It's like.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like those old timey like railroad things that have like the seesaw lever thing where there's two guys, one on either side,
Yep.
and they're like, it's sort of like that, except but like powered by a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And it's like a 15-20 minute ride one way.
It's a long time. Yeah, we got in at night because we spent a night there, which was really nice. Yeah, it was great to just get an extra early start, and we went birding and herping at night, and had this choco screech owl there. I think 4 species of owls, and we had fer-de-lance.
I was going to say any large pit vipers. That's quite a good area for large pit vipers.
It turned out to be. Yep.
Yeah. Supposed to be a good place for bushmaster, actually.
I saw pictures, and we didn't make it that far. But also a ton of frogs that I still have yet to fully identify. That was super fun, and this was my first time in like choco proper too. So a lot of just fun things to get started there. But yeah, it's also worth mentioning that part of the reason that this community is so remote is that it's one of many marooned previous, slave communities where slaves had escaped when they were brought into Colombia and went way out into remote areas and built communities around it. So from my understanding, they are now granted full indigenous rights in the country. So they also, in this particular case, get to manage and keep the profits from the national park that's there too. So it's this totally unique culture compared to anything else that I've been in Colombia, because it's very Afro-Caribbean. Everything's different. Food's different. Music is different. You know, the lifestyle is different, and it's a tiny town. So it was really fun to get to experience that. And then we got the full choco birding experience the next day, and it was really, really fun.
You got amazing photos of Sapayoa.
Yeah, I did. I still need to edit those videos too, but that was awesome. It was fun. You know, it was just a few of us, like the 3 of us birding with the local guide, whose name is Never, who everybody birds with there. So if you've probably been with him.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, it was super fun. We also got to eat at his place for several meals, and the food was super good. And so we moved pretty quickly. That was a long ways out on this trail. I don't think that the groups typically go that far unless you're really targeting Sapayoa, but we kind of breezed through and had a really long day, honestly. But then at one point veered off the trail. Also, he's an exceptionally good birder. Holy cow. Knows the area, of course, knows the spots to go for a lot of these species, but also is just, he might be the best I've ever been with as far as just getting on birds quickly. I don't even know if he lifted his binoculars all day. So that was fun to witness. But yes, Sapayoa was a huge target for me. Was really, really excited. And then we cut off the trail and walked down this little creek, 50 yards or something, and there they were, and hung out with a pair for a while. It was fantastic.
Can you describe that bird for me? Because myself and probably some of your listeners might not know, and I want to get to know it after hearing you talk about it.
Oh, gosh, absolutely. I hope I can do it justice. So it's a monotypic family. It's, of course, one of these like one-word names that often means that the birds are pretty special.
Alvaro loves those, yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of reminded me of a flycatcher. It's similar to flycatchers, but I think this is sort of discovered to be a remnant of broadbills from the old world, and this is the sole member of sort of quote-unquote New World broadbills. But it's a medium-sized bird. One of my favorite birds in Colombia is a cinnamon flycatcher. So I don't know if anyone's seen them. They're a little more common, but it's kind of that shape, but a little bit bigger. But like big head, big beautiful eyes, medium-sized flycatcher bill, and just well, they're totally green too. They're like this beautiful, like sort of yellowish green that's got different hues if you get a good look at them, and they just like look like they're reflecting the understory of the canopy really well. And then they've got bright red eyes. So
Wow.
they're so cool.
Yeah, and it's like, to look at it, I think what's one of the things that's most interesting too is as Molly alluded, is the taxonomy, because this bird is sort of a kind of an olive green, a fairly bright olive green if you get it in good light. Otherwise, it can look very, very dark depending on the light. But it's actually a fairly bright olive green bird. But the name is Sapayoa. One of the Old English names is broad-billed Sapayoa, which does allude to it being in the Old World broad bills. But the scientific name is Sapayoa enigma, which is, so the scientific name basically is the species name conveys how vexed the taxonomy has been. It's because they thought it was a flycatcher, there was a broad bill. They and at this point they basically think it's its own thing. So it's a real birder's bird, and it's basically found in central eastern Panama and along the Choco, basically in the Choco region of Colombia, down barely into Ecuador. So it's a special one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, some of those, like that type of flycatchers and those kinds of birds are really some of my favorite too. So this was like a very special take on a really unique version of that. So it was great. Yep. It's honestly one of my favorite birds ever. So I was excited studying for it. Didn't know if I'd see it or not. And then it totally blew me away. And like
they can
I said,
be real tricky. Yeah.
Yeah. They're very spotty. But it was a pair and they were just hunting. Like I said, never just knew the spot. And we walked out and they were close and they were just hopping around, just right above this little clearing. I think if I remember correctly, they nest. The description of their nest kind of reminded me of hummingbirds, like ruby-throated hummingbirds around here, where they use a branch that's covered, that's sticking over a creek. And we didn't see their nest, but it's a cool thought. They've got all sorts of good things going for them, so that was a big highlight.
Yeah, and in cool habitat to boot.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, I would encourage folks to check out the Hillstar News under the media tab as well to see more of what you wrote. A great piece that we just put up, and including some video of a very, very, very large, heavy eagle. So people should go take a look at that. It is an eagle that one could see with Holly on her Panama trip that is upcoming a year from now, and is along with a multitude of other raptors that are possible. That is one worth seeing. The Harpy eagle, of which we speak. That must have been an amazing experience, Molly.
Yeah, absolutely. Which, as I referenced at the beginning of this article that I just put up, that was fun to write, which we were calling the Choco Tree Ant Pitta, because this was a bit of a surprise for us to go see. Giovanni set up part of this trip, and this is where we went after San Cipriano. So within the Choco bioregion, there aren't many access points. Where Holly is going from the Panama side is one of them. And then in Colombia, you've kind of got these 2 points. One of them is around San Cipriano and that stretch from there to Buenaventura, which is the only Pacific port in all of Colombia. There's only one access point that is difficult for a lot of reasons to access and get to. Yeah. So San Cipriano, I think, is your best bet for like a safe, accessible birding in that part of Colombia.
Yeah.
But otherwise, kind of halfway between there and the Panama side of the Choco is the town of Bahia Solano and a national park and a couple other little places there that's only accessible by boat or plane. So Giovanni set this part of our trip up, and he kept it a surprise from me. I had done a little bit of research, so knew that there was a chance that we would be looking for Harpy eagle while we were there. But I kept it a surprise from Jimmy with even my suspicions. So we didn't actually know that we were making it to the Harpy eagle nest until like we were there on this full day hike. So it was really fun it was just a great day. It was probably the most fun birding day of my life.
And it was a long hike, right? It was
long. Yeah. Round trip, we went about 12 miles, I think.
Wow.
And this is this is a pretty proper, Choco lowlands, hot, humid. We had to get up into primary forest and away from the coast, and it was tough, which makes it really fun. But yeah, we so the night before, we knew we were going on a day hike. We knew we had to wear rubber boots, which I was not happy about because that's never comfortable. And I didn't actually know how far we were going or anything. I always get nervous. I don't know. I hike and run a lot. I know I'm in good shape, but I always get nervous before these like big trips where, you're like, well, this could be tough. You got to bring a lot of water. Like you got to be prepared for this. So I was kind of glad I didn't know that it was as big of a day as it would be, just so I didn't get nervous for no reason. But yeah, so we went out, we took a boat ride, we got to this privately owned reserve, went through mangrove forest, met a local caretaker of the reserve there who joined us, and I wrote about this a lot because he had really, really amazing story about these eagles and the nests that he found 9 years prior and everything that's happened in those 9 years, including the original female getting poached and killed. Yeah. And now there's another pair I think this is their maybe second successful nest. So we hiked and climbed up and had a really, really nice checklist of birds the whole way through, including a lot of specialty choco birds, and got to the nest. And after maybe 30 minutes or so, we were kind of sitting there watching it, we heard the female and the chick calling.
Wow.
And yeah, it was 3 weeks old, they said, the chick. Mm. I'm not sure if anybody had seen the chick yet, actually. It's not many people go to this. It's not easy to get to.
I was going to say, it's
lots of reasons. So yeah.
It's remote to get there, and that plus the hike. So
right, that's right. Yeah, it's a lot of work just to get there, and then it's a lot of like to buy a Solano, and then to this spot that you get to, and then the effort to get up there to the nest is a lot too. But yeah, we saw the mother's head turning a little bit, and we could see the chick like bounce up. We all kind of got one quick look of it in the scope because the nest was pretty far up in this tree that was really high. So we were really happy with that. We spent a couple hours. We had to get back to get the boat, so we had a hard cutoff of when we needed to leave, and we literally had our bags on our backs and were like walking out when the mail came in and brought a sloth, and it was amazing. And he stayed for a long time. I texted Jimmy this morning as I was writing this article because I was like, how long did we actually watch that mail? I don't have a concept of time. He said it was an hour
to exist. Yeah.
It felt like it. I mean, I know I was like squealing. I've never seen Jimmy be that excited about anything before. So that was really fun. He's a very even-keeled person, but he was so thrilled with this. And man, all of us. It was just fun. But yeah, he said we watched it for an hour. I didn't think it was that long, but I don't know if it was 15 minutes or an hour or what, but it was enough to absolutely delight us, on top of just such a fun day. Everyone there was fun. Our group was fun. We had a great time. It was just so joyful all day, and ended with that.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like a lot of birding zen going on there, Molly. Yeah. You lost track of everything else except for that bird.
Yeah, it absolutely was. It was so thrilling.
Yeah, one of the biggest raptors on Earth. I remember seeing like the one in Panama at the Summit Garden Zoo there, and realizing that like its wrists are like, like I've got pretty skinny wrists, but that thing had crazy wrists. I was like, oh man, that thing's like enormous.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. just seeing the female in the nest, kind of, like I said, she was kind of turning her head a little bit as she was calling. And at first I thought that I was seeing the whole face, and then I realized it was just like part of her eye, and how massive it actually was. It was a huge bird.
Yeah, they don't make raptors too much bigger. Yeah.
No. And that's just, you build up a lot of anticipation to see something like a harpy eagle, but it
it's one of the all-time bucket list birds.
Yeah, absolutely. And it totally lives up to the hype. So I can see why it has that reputation.
Nice. Well, I think folks that want to see that bird should go with you, Holly, in next year. And it's prime raptor migration anyway, plus a whole bunch of other cool Darien birds that people could see.
Yeah. It's such a great experience. I did this trip this past October as a participant with Whitehawk Birding. And I have to say, like you said, I don't have a lot of birds that are on a, quote, bucket list of birds to see in my life, but this was one of them and has been for a really long time as a raptorphile. And it really was a spiritual journey for me. It reminded me a lot of a friend of mine who had recently passed away from ALS. And she and I had talked about seeing this bird one day. And so she was with me. I could feel it on that journey that day. But I think one of the things that makes it so special outside of actually laying eyes on this majestic creature is just what it takes to get there. Like what you were describing, Molly, it's never easy, or it usually isn't. I mean, maybe there are some people that have encounters with harpy eagle in more populated areas, but typically we're going to find them in jungles, which we have to travel. And for me, for you, it is kind of a trek to get there, but that's kind of what makes it so special is the journey and getting there, and all the birds you meet along that journey while you're trekking into the jungle, or whether, like for us, we take a boat, and that will be part of the trip that I'll be leading for Hillstar next year in March, taking a boat and then hiking, and it really is quite the journey and a really great experience. And I would recommend it to anybody who ever has their opportunity presenting for them. And hopefully it will be with Hillstar Nature next year. But yeah, it really is something that over I will have to say, exceeded my expectations. I knew it would be amazing to see a harpy eagle. I had no idea how I would actually feel in that moment. I was shaking. I really was. I really can't even put words to how the power of that moment felt. Probably people who have had experiences with birds like the harpy eagle, or birds that they've wanted to see for a really long time, and it took many thousands of miles of travel, including air, from my home base here to get there. What that feels like, that's part of the power of birds, right?
Yeah. I think when I think of harpy eagles, to me, it's like Philippine eagle, harpy eagle, stellar sea eagle. Those are just all such big, amazing raptors. Martial eagle probably falls, they all take just such kind of unconscionably large, big prey items. They're just, you have to admire them. But I think we should also talk a little bit about the birds closer to home here, Holly. One interesting thing, and I want folks to check out your article, right, that you have upcoming in the March. Is it the March issue of Birding Magazine?
Yeah, coming out any day now.
Yeah, I was going to say, here we are, March 4th. March 4th. I always thought that should be a great birding holiday. It's like you March 4th, spring is coming, get outside March 4th and see some birds.
That's
but
right.
Should be a thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think we'd be interested to hear about that, and also this idea that you and I were discussing the other day, and that I know you've discussed with some others, that people could begin to think of their birds in their yards as pet companions, as especially for people that travel and maybe can't own a pet. Like I always knew I was going to have to find my partner before I could ever actually have a dog. I've wanted a dog my entire life, but I knew I was going to have to find a partner because with my profession, I just couldn't keep a dog. So this is something you've been thinking about a lot lately, right?
Yeah. So this idea of our feeder birds being companions, much like we would treat the animals we invite into our homes as our companions. And, for me, I can't have a dog or a cat right now because of my lifestyle. I travel too much. And the rest of my family travels as well. So it makes it really complicated. But what I can do is offer birds in my yard that same sort of reciprocity of I'm going to, take care of you by inviting you in through feeding, bird feeders and or water. I have a bird bath out there with a heated element in it and maintaining that all the time, and also planting a lot of native plants. And this just brings the birds in closer, but it also offers me an opportunity to connect with those birds on a deeper level. And there is science, there's research out there that have looked at this concept. And it's true that people feel more relaxed when they're connecting with birds in their own gardens or yards. There was a report that came out of the UK by Cox and Gex in 2015, I believe. And that's what they suggested through this study, is that people were experiencing these pleasurable feelings, and were feeling more connected in a way that empowered stewardship, which is a good thing, right? So when we connect with birds, we're also thinking about how can we take better care of them, And so there's something powerful in that, I think, as well. And it makes us just feel grounded. For me, when I'm around the birds that are in my yard, I just feel at home. I have this sense that I'm truly anchored and truly centered in a way that's very different than I might find in other areas that I might visit. And I owe that a lot to what's going on outside my windows and doors and this concept of feeding birds. So I have a question for you guys. When we're talking about birds as companions and associating them in that same context of the word, like both of you have dogs, and George, you also have a cat, I know.
Yep.
Would you say the feeder birds or birds? I know, Molly, you just moved in, but I know you're going to have some bird feeder activity going there. Does this make sense? Does it resonate with you?
Yeah, this is so timely. Because I didn't know we were going to be talking about this, because I didn't look at our list of topics before we got on this morning. But I did a checklist this morning, just walking around with the dogs, and this was kind of my first proper birding since getting in here to the cabin at our place. And I started to send the checklist to a friend, and I paused, and I was thinking about this as we started the podcast, because I felt I'm trying to think of the word. Well, kind of like ownership. This is, I think, exactly what you're talking about. It kind of feels like these are my birds, and not in that I control them in any way, but
that
exactly
you get to host
what you're
them.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're the blue. I can see a bluebird box from the bedroom window, and there are bluebirds on it, and that feels so special.
Yeah.
And then so some of the birds are clearly residents here, like those, and then other ones that I'm just wondering, are these chickadees sticking around? There's a Cooper's hawk flying around. Is it staying here? Is it what's going on with it? And just so much pride. And I absolutely, completely resonate with what you're saying, Holly, because just the connection that I feel with these birds is absolutely spectacular. It's actually a bonus too that I have been out of the States for a month, so a song sparrow is extra special right now, that sort of thing. But
yeah,
wow,
one of the nice things about travel actually is that it really makes you thankful when you get home to see your birds again. And I feel similarly. I feel like I get to host these birds that if they come to my feeders, our feeders, and Kristen really maintains them probably more than I do, is I'm thank you for, being here. Thanks for choosing us. You chose us, and that it feels, special. And so then if you see them come back again and again and again, it really is special. Or even if somebody that a bird that you just know is a migrant and is just moving through, you think, well, still they chose this route. They chose to grace us today. And that feels special. I think it changes depending on the season, of course. Right. But this time of year in winter here, what I really like are, I don't actually put out that much seed here. We put out some for the whitethroats in one corner of the yard, and they dig that, and the house sparrows get after it as well. But I really love seeing the juncos feeding on the seeds of all the plants that we planted from the previous summer. So there's all the goldenrod and all the all sorts of different plants that we have, and you can just see them work in the ground for the seeds. We also put out some, and actually, Holly, you gave me a nice container of some mealworms, which the whole concept of mealworms probably grosses some of our listeners out, I would imagine. Just like, it doesn't sound good, but but they are full of fat, and especially in the winter, if it's really cold, that can be a pretty big deal for some of these birds. That you can, and if I put some of those out, you can see they just vanish quickly. Birds, a lot of birds really dig on that. So, I mean, I love our sapsuckers here that they don't even really come to our feeders, but they're working the sweet gum, and I can see the sap wells, that they've been drilling all winter. And every time I step out the front door, I hear one, and I feel like it's calling to me. It's probably just doing its thing, but yeah, I feel similar. Like, you recognize them, they're friends.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's that tuning in that you're describing, George, and paying attention and taking time to notice. And the fact that I think when we think about birds, because like we've had this conversation even on this podcast of what makes birds so special or magical, I think Alvaro was referring to it as. And when thinking about that, I really think it's this reciprocity that they bring. So we can invite the birds in closer. We can offer them food sources or water, or certainly plantings that will attract them. And when they accept our RSVP, it's as if, that's kind of special for us. It feels good in a different way. And yeah, we could invite butterflies and other types of animals in, but this is a little different. And like you're saying, you get connected to these birds in such a way that just, it feels as if there's something more to it. And so this idea of companionship, likening to our dogs or cats or other animal companions we might have, I think it really resonates for a lot of people. For some people, you can't have bird feeders, or you can't have pets, like I was saying before. And it's just a way in which to connect on a deeper level. And I don't know about you guys, but when I travel, I have explicit instructions on what day to fill the feeders. I have to hire sometimes a pet feeder, a bird feeder sitter, which probably sounds ridiculous to some people, but they come,
I remember being hired as a kid to do that at some friends.
Really? Yeah. See, yeah. I mean, and that just goes to show that we can really view the birds outside our own doors as our companions, because we're taking care of them in that same way. They're bringing us that same joy. They might not be snuggling up in bed with us at night, but they're offering us a different sort of companionship that is really special and really important.
And even as Molly was saying about the harpy eagle, it's like time can kind of cease. Even if you're just even if you're watching a chickadee in your backyard, or a sapsucker, or bluebirds, or juncos, or ruby-crowned kinglets, like it is, it's you're in that moment, and that's a moment kind of frozen in time, and I think that's part of what we all love about these guys, these birds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have to share. There's a logging road here below the cabin that kind of cuts through the woods that was just filled with multiflora rose, and we cleared it all out last year. So this is the first year that it's been open. And last night I watched woodcock with a thermal camera on that logging road displaying, which was so cool. And yeah, exactly what you're talking about is the stewardship and the reciprocity of that, and so cool. And then I didn't realize you can hear them
sounding off.
Yeah. And then we came back inside and realized we could still hear them in the cabin.
I've been dreaming about that since I got home, 2 weeks ago now. I've been like, this is perfect time of year. I've gone out at dusk a few times thinking like this habitat in our neighborhood, I could picture one pitching in and sounding off. And I've been hoping to get that. As my friend Jeff got one the other day in similar fashion. And I was like, so jealous. So.
Yeah, I really want to invite. So there's like a small HOA with a dozen houses that you drive through to get to our land. We're not part of the HOA, and they're on like 5-acre lots. But I want to invite all the neighbors down to like have beer and listen to woodcock. I think that would set the stage for who we are pretty clearly.
Yeah, and maybe get them to change some of those HOA regulations, which could be. Yeah. Who knows? I don't know about that HOA.
That's an uphill battle.
Yeah,
That's not my battle yet.
Yeah. Thankfully. Right on, guys. Well, we should wrap up here. I am about to zip off down to the Eastern Shore, and I can smell some chocolate banana bread that Kristen has made, and I want to get to that. Yes, it's beckoning me. So yeah. Holly, did you want to briefly outline for folks what the American Birding Association's magazine, Birding Magazine, the next issue is going to feature your article? Maybe tell folks a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the article is called The Birding Prescription, and it's essentially why we need birds in our lives for our overall well-being and the benefits they bring, but it goes deeper into some of what I touched on here. But yeah, everybody should check it out and consider this and ask the question, has your physician prescribed birding for you yet? Because that is definitely on the horizon, and I outline that in the article. And I'm excited to share this message a bit more widely. So thanks for having me on, guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Holly, for being here. Alvaro is enjoying birds and wine in Chile, but he will be back in the not too distant future. Molly, anything you want folks to know about before we sign off?
I am still scrambling on catching up on trip reports and content and everything from Colombia. I'm also working on prep for a lot of tours, but it's not ready yet. So I'll tell you about that next time. Right on.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back again soon with another episode of Life Listed Birding Podcast. Easy for me to say. Cheers, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Happy birding.